Well, so pleased to have you joining us for another episode of Curiosity, Not Judgment. Welcome. My name is Birga.
And I'm Gary.
We wanted to talk a little bit today about hospitality. This is something that Gary and I both feel pretty strongly about, but it's not necessarily a natural bent that people have. Sometimes you have to be curious about your space, your ability, your thoughtfulness around others to consider if you can be hospitable. Let me spit that out. And you've heard, if you've listened for any length of time, you've heard Gary and I both talk about the opportunities that we've had to host international students and what that looks like to be hospitable between cultures. And so thought that was a great topic for us to be curious about today.
Yeah, and how do we set up our lives to be hospitable in various aspects? Birga is mentioning, inviting foreign students into your home, but what about friends? What about family? Are you the house where people gather? Are you the place where the kids in the neighborhood gather?
Mhm.
How do we intentionally set up ourselves, our lives, our homes, our environments to be hospitable?
Yeah. I may have shared this definition with you in the past, but it was something that I don't even know where it came from. It does not originate with me, but I heard it and it so impacted me. I've always remembered it that an alternative definition of a hospitality is I thought of you before you got here. And
Mm.
I just loved that. And it just really made me kind of reconsider what it looks like to be thoughtful and hospitable to anyone and everyone that comes into your path, into your life that you want to nurture relationship with.
And the ripple effect that that can have is amazing. I think I may have mentioned on this podcast before, but when my wife and I travel anywhere, the chances are, since we've been doing this for many years, that there is a family there of who had a child that stayed in our house.
Mm,
And, guess what? They would love to have us stay with them, which is much
yep,
better than a hotel or, and staying with and going shopping at their market and all those kinds of things is so much fun. But there's also that ripple effect when you have thought about people ahead of time and we actually have fun thinking of, okay, what can we do to make them feel more comfortable? And we always,
mhm,
when we go to the airport, everybody's a little different how they do this, but when you're meeting somebody who's dazed and confused and coming off an international flight,
mhm.
we print out a little flag of their country, we write on their welcome, fill in the blank of their name. We try to learn how to say hello in their language and how are you and how was the flight and things like this. And you can imagine how special that makes them feel.
Absolutely.
And yes, we do it for that, but it's also fun to do.
Mhm.
And it has the ripple effect of, now they have been welcomed
Yes.
into a country. That's going to make them feel better about being here and be more hospitable
Mhm.
in their actions. And then again, it's their families, et cetera. And so, there's lots of good reasons to be intentionally hospitable.
Yeah. So we just said goodbye to our latest international student. So she had initially come over for one semester. She ended up extending her stay through the summer and then just departed. I think it's now been maybe 36 hours ago. And it was so cute. We were all together at an event, and it was kind of the last hurrah for her with this collection of people. And I jokingly said to her something along the lines of, well, should we sing you a song or what should we do? And she says, yes, I would like a song. And so, we sent her outside and we're like, okay, pretty quick, what song are we going to sing? And I share that just because it was one of those fun, sweet, tender, vulnerable moments where she had gotten to know us well enough that we would comply with the request to sing her a song, but also it was just, I think she was so impacted by her time in Albuquerque and the people that she got to meet as an extension of our little family and the connections that she made, that there needed to be some sort of, I don't know, eventful send off, I suppose. And so I've just been really thinking about the power of hospitality and the impact, as you say, it can make on a life and how it can continue to impact others. for this particular young woman, her family came to visit about midway through her semester. So we also had a dinner for her parents and her grandparents and her siblings. And so, it's just amazing the incredible opportunities that you receive as a host, the relationships you forge, how you get to learn about other people, other cultures, other nationalities, and just the beautiful way that being curious about what would happen if we open up our home or open up our kitchen table or dining room table to somebody, where that can go.
Yeah, and we've also had the experience where our students will have family visit
Hmm.
during their stay, and it's just so much fun. And oftentimes the parents speak, very little English, and they end up being the interpreters back and forth. And I mean, like you said, it's just a lot of fun. And sometimes we'll play games, we'll play like Pictionary, and just such a fun time, doing just normal stuff, and just seeing the different cultural things that come up when doing things that we would just normally do. And it's so expansive. And I think one of the things about being hospitable is it gets us out of our own thinking, our own thoughts, our own patterns. And I think that that's super important. I think that's something that can teach each one of us. And, we often, my wife and I look at each other and say, "Hey, we're getting more out of this than they are," and because oftentimes it comes up, "Wait a minute, nobody pays you to do this? No, this is you do this for free," and
Hmm.
it's like, well, yeah, but we get paid back in all of the things that our students bring to us, and sometimes their families.
Yeah. Going back to that definition of I thought about you before you got here, that definitely takes some advanced planning. It takes some questions up front. If you're going to really consider the person and their comfort, maybe they have a fear of animals and you've got animals in your home and you need to keep them in a back bedroom while they're visiting, or maybe they've got a food sensitivity or a food allergy. Maybe they are very allergic to a particular fragrance, right? If you're going to host somebody for more than just, the short term, if you need to have someone in your home for a number of days or weeks, there are some curious questions you need to ask in order to really be the best host you can be, I suppose. And, those curious questions will also go a long way of helping to get to know that person as say, hey, what are some of your favorite foods? I'd love to cook a meal for you. Or what are some of the things that you miss most about home, especially if you've got somebody who's maybe feeling a little homesick? And how can you help, you know, make that experience a little bit richer by incorporating some of those elements? And one of the things that I think we've enjoyed most with our international students has been asking them to cook us something that they like from their country.
Oh
And so
yeah.
we'll go shopping, we'll buy all the ingredients, like, okay, fix me your favorite dish or teach me how to fix it. And so a lot of good, curious questions around culture and foods and habits and all of those things that definitely are enriching.
One of our favorite things to do. And we'll start with Talon Market. It's a local market here in Albuquerque, for those of you who don't know it, that has like a different aisle for different countries.
Hmm.
But there are many countries where we can Google and find a whole store dedicated
Hmm.
to a given country, and it's so much fun to
Yeah.
go and do that. And there's a specific store that does everything Korean, and there's another one for anyway. I'll never forget this one time we did this, and the person was making us food, and we try not to ask, what's in it, right? And
Hmm.
we know we're in the store, and sometimes we see things going across the scanner, but we try not to find out what it is until after we've tasted it.
Hmm.
And, I mean, and even that, is opening yourself up to new things. But you talked about putting your dogs in the backyard. The organization that we do this through, it's called ISI. They do a really good job of taking care of minimizing the surprises. So
Sure.
they have a questionnaire that the student fills out. Is it okay if the host family has a dog or a cat or whatever? But one time I'll never forget one of the first students we ever had. She came from Korea. she was going into the architecture program, and I just was marveling back then. I remember marveling how some, I mean, it was hard for me to get through engineering undergrad as it was, right? And to try to do it in a different language, I can't even imagine it, right? So
Yeah.
she's coming to architecture, and I'm thinking, man, very lecture based.
Mm.
How is she going to do this? And she spoke almost no English when she got here.
Oh, wow.
Many students speak English very well. Some are kind of, halfway there. This particular student showed up and she knew almost nothing. Ironically, she ended up placing third in a talent contest
Mm.
later that semester, doing an M&M menage thing anyway with another person. And she learned not only English, but we had some Spanish speaking people in our house. She learned English and Spanish
Amazing.
incredibly quickly. But those first couple of days, and finally, it was about 2, 3 days in when she finally we were able to communicate that, you know what? Why do you keep your house so cold? She was thinking, right?
Oh,
So she was not used to, she came from a warmer climate. There's both in,
ah.
and she was just wondering why she was like, she was trying to get across to us, and we finally figured out, oh, you want us to turn the thermostat up a little higher, right? And so,
Mm.
like I said, those little things of communication, when you finally get it, right, it's just so much fun because,
Yeah.
we all take for granted communications. And when you don't have language to communicate, it makes it even that much more challenging. And then
Mhm.
when you do get it, it's even more satisfying.
Yeah. Well, I want to transition kind of our theme of hospitality a little bit because hosting people in your home is not going to be for everyone. You certainly could host a meal. You don't have to have the commitment of an overnight stay or multiple overnight stays, but you can also find ways to be hospitable that don't involve bringing people into your home. And one of the things that I really loved when I first started my job was they sent out a Google form and it was called Your Favorite Things. And it asked, what are your favorite snack foods? What are your favorite drink orders at, Starbucks or whatever? And it was 4 or 5 questions. And when it was my birthday, I came into the office and saw all of my favorite things on my desk, right?
Wow.
I just loved that. And I loved the intentionality of asking some questions around what are things that you really like, and how do we show you care and love on your birthday? And then, just throughout the year. Now, me being in management, I want to take advantage of that as well. Maybe it's a Tuesday afternoon and people are working hard and everybody's kind of hit a slump, and can I go run and get a quick coffee order for people, right? And notate their favorite things because we've thought of them before,
Mhm.
we've gotten to this moment. And so I think that theme of hospitality really carries into the workplace as well.
To the workplace, to the home, to everywhere. And that prior thought, and someone took the time to think about me. I mean, I really love that definition of hospitality that you've laid out. Now, I'm not smart or sensitive or compassionate enough to come up with this first, but at my surprise birthday party earlier this year, my dad stood up and did a speech, right, about me. And
Mm.
I was just so moved. Well, so now yesterday we were celebrating my dad's birthday, and my son says, "Hey, so you're gonna write a speech for dad like he wrote for you?" It's like I just laughed, and then I thought, huh, I should do that, right?
Mhm.
And I did, and it didn't take, this is the thing. It takes very little time and effort to make someone feel incredibly special
Yes.
if you have that definition of hospitality that you're talking about, thinking of someone before they arrive. And it just went over really, really well. And it just really created a really nice mood. And he was so grateful and thankful.
Mm.
And it was just really special. And even though I didn't think of it first, I did it.
Yeah,
Right. And I think that's part of the battle, right? I mean,
absolutely.
it is just is executing, right? But it was really, really nice. So not just the workplace, at the home, in the
Mhm.
family, doing little things that show that you know about them. My youngest daughter is really good at gift giving.
Mm.
Um, in this day and age of a gift card or whatever at Christmas or birthdays, She does, and I put her in charge when she's around of the stockings for everyone because she's very good at finding that unique gift. It doesn't have to be big.
Sure.
It's just, I thought of you. I know you kind of like what your work did on your birthday.
Yeah.
I know you well enough, and I took the time to find something that I knew you would like.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
Well, and just again, it just takes a little bit of foresight and a little bit of planning. But to your point, maybe you come across a clearance rack and there's 10 items of something silly, fun, sweet, whatever. And you think, hey, you know what? In a month from now, there's some random holiday, and maybe I'll just buy this to pass out to my colleagues, or just thinking ahead. One of the things, this is a little secret, but I guess it's going to be broadcast now. What I'm planning to do for the employees is I want to host a Socktoberfest.
Okay.
So I had heard that from somebody else, not original to me, but doing a sock exchange. So just
Ah,
a fun little way to have some like interaction between employees, and to again try to be funny and creative. So if we end up doing draw a name or something, and somebody picks me, what kind of crazy socks are they going to get me, right? Am I the one who's going to get the, I don't know, Snoopy socks, or I don't have any affinity for Snoopy, but just to see, like, are people going to go out of their way to try to be creative, to try to get to know their colleagues a little bit better, to match up a theme to a person? I'm very curious to see what happens, and just participation in general. How do we show care and community and hospitality even in those little things?
one of the accidental ones that we did recently was we love going to Costco. We should not go to Costco as much as we do. Um, but we have the little samples and walk around and just look at stuff. We noticed there was this thing called a box of cards.
Hmm.
And it's literally a box of cards for all occasions.
Oh, I've bought that many times.
Okay, well, because you're smarter and better at this than I am, of course. But we bought this thing, and I can't tell you how many times we can reach in there and pull out something to give to someone. We would not have that opportunity if we
Mhm.
hadn't bought the box of cards. And so that's one of the recommendations I'd give is
Yeah.
go out and buy a box of cards. I love the dollar store or clearance rack thing that you do where you just get a bunch of stuff and then at appropriate times, you can just kind
Mhm.
of give those out. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to take hours of work. It doesn't have to be any great effort at all. It just has to be a little intentionality before an interaction, and it can pay off in just huge, huge ROI for a relationship.
Yeah. Well, and you shared this story, once or twice in the run of podcasts about the kind of the neighborhood thing of who gets to pull in each other's garbage cans first.
Yes, I did that just
To me,
yesterday.
that is hospitality, right? I thought of you before you got here. I want to clear your trash cans. I want to let you know that I'm thinking of you and taking care of you.
Yeah, and it's funny when one of the other neighbors comes out at the same time I do. But and then we'll just kind of do a little walk race, right, to see who gets
Mhm.
there first. But that's the kind of stuff that is just to me that makes the world go round. I remember
Mhm.
Robert Fulghum, who wrote uh, Everything I Need to Know About Life I Learned in Kindergarten is, I think, his most famous work. But he writes a series of short stories, and one of them is doing that. Be playful in life. Do little things for people. It's very little cost, and it really, really, it's like the oil that makes people, the lubricant that makes people just, be nicer and better. And
Yeah. Well, so if we've got listeners that are thinking, gosh, I don't know that I do very well with hospitality. I don't know that I'm kind of prone to think that way. What are some of those curious questions we can begin to generate to kind of put ourselves in the right frame of mind to begin the journey of hospitality?
So I think that's a great question. I think it's like cooking. My wife and I now cook together. Neither one of us knew how to cook when we were married, and we, just kind of looked at each other like, well, if we're gonna eat, better figure this out. And but now cooking's not a big deal, and it's one of the. I think hospitality is like that. I think if you just start making little efforts, exercise it like a muscle,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get better and better at it. So to say, "Oh, I'm not good at hospitality," well, that just means you haven't done it.
Mm,
Doesn't mean you're bad or good. It's not a judgment.
yeah,
It's how could I've got this event coming up. What could I do to think about the people who are involved in the event?
yeah,
And start small. Do tiny little things. And then that will grow like a snowball. And eventually, you'll be good at it and it'll become second nature.
yeah. Well, I think you can also start with kind of reflecting on your past. So, when is a time when I felt most appreciated? Like, what is
Mm.
a gesture someone did for me that was really impactful? And really kind of walk down memory lane a little bit and think through that. And to your point, many times it's not going to be something elaborate or expensive. It was just it's a small token of appreciation or small something or other that somebody has done for you that really was an impact because they thought of you. They took the time to get to know your likes or they took the time to, pick out something that would make you laugh, bring a smile to your face. And those items, maybe are $1, something from the dollar store. But I just think that, reflecting on some of those can be really special. And then thinking, okay, well, I've got these people that are really important to me, and I do want them to know how much I care. I do want them to know that they really are important to my life. So how can I start to ask some questions to learn to know some of their likes a little bit better, to maybe take some inventory? Maybe it can be a formal questionnaire if that's appropriate, kind of like the Google form that I filled out for work. Hey, what's your favorite drink from Starbucks? What's your favorite candy? What's your favorite salty snack? Whatever. And maybe you just hang on to that. And then as time is appropriate, you can, gift some of those little things. But you can also just find out through conversation, right? Just begin like, hey, what'd you guys do this weekend? Oh, we went out to eat. Oh, where'd you go? What kind of foods do you like to eat when you guys go out? What do you do? Those kinds of things.
And oh, I love Italian. And I tell you, the
Mhm.
little things also are a big deal. Whenever I'm on the phone getting some service, whether it's an airline or a hotel, and we all spend lots of time on this and we all resent it. One of the things I do that helps me resent it a little bit less is I write the person's name down when they first introduce themselves.
Mm,
And then at the end of the call, or even during the middle of the call, sometimes I'll have the chance of saying, hey, Nicole, thank you. That was very helpful. When people hear their name, it's a
mm,
big deal. Huge. I can't tell you the responses I've gotten from that. When a waiter or a waitress comes up and talks to you and says, oh, hey, how are you today? And you say, fine, how are you?
mhm.
Back. I can't tell you how many, believe it or not, and I would just assume everybody would do this. The waiters and waitresses say, "I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking." Like maybe nobody's asking them anymore. And so, think of that. There might also be curious to say, what are the little things that I can do, the little habits I can form to just kind of show people that they matter
Yeah.
when I'm, not be on the cell phone when I'm walking through the line
Yes.
at Target or something, just those little things and be intentional about it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you brought up wait staff and, some of those because absolutely we have such a power in the way that we interact with people to bless their day or to make it worse, right? By
Absolutely.
choosing to engage, to make contact, to be courteous, to say, you know what, I really appreciate it. I see that you guys are slammed. I see you guys are
Mhm.
short-staffed. I know this is a stressful night, but thanks for taking care of us, right?
Exactly.
Just those observations of your environment, choosing to acknowledge the person as somebody who's not just giving you your dinner, but a whole person who has a life and how this is part of their life and this is the way that they, bring an income into their home and just to think about them in their fullness. And I think just that power of acknowledging and appreciating is so profound.
And oftentimes on the way out of a restaurant, we'll ask to speak to the manager and tell them what a great experience we had. And it's so many times I ask somebody, can I get your manager? And they're like, uh-oh,
Yeah,
why? And the manager comes up looking at us like, oh my God, am I going to get attacked? And then we
yeah,
say it and they go, thank you so much. I'll make sure I
sure.
pass that along. And oh my God. And again, spreading a little joy. I love the way you said that. Are you a blessing or a curse, right?
Hmm.
The people you interact with. And I think that's being more intentional to be a little bit more of a blessing today than a curse. We all have bad days. Look, you
Sure.
can't be perfect at this. But just being intentional goes a long way.
Yeah. Well, I love it, and I hope this really is an inspiration for people to start their journey of hospitality, whether they are just beginning for the very first time or improving their hospitality skill set. I hope this serves to just cause you to think a little bit about some new techniques or tricks that you can do to show people appreciation and care. So, Gary, thank you very much. It was a delightful conversation, and I'll look forward to catching up with you again next week.
Take care, everyone.